7 days, 500 kilograms of king crab, or the device around your neck is detonated. I want you to stop thinking about this as a premise and start thinking about what that sentence does physiologically to a human body. Not metaphorically, not narratively, biologically. Because what we are looking at is not a character in a functional crisis. It is a precious recreation of one of the most destructive physiological states a human nervous system can be forced into. Chronic, inescapable, somatic threat. And the body has exactly one response to that. It starts to break. This is the autopsy. The world this takes place in has made a legislative decision. Debt is not a financial condition, it is a criminal one. If you cannot pay what you owe, you are no longer a citizen. You are a resource. The sentence is this. A biometric explosive device is implanted around your neck. You are placed alone on a commercial fishing vessel, dropped in Antarctic waters. You have 7 days, 500 kilograms of king crab. Failure means detonation. Your remaining debt transfers to your family. This is delivered once. Then it is never mentioned again. It doesn't need to be. Because from that moment, every decision, every movement, every choice is made under the weight of that sentence. The mechanics are simple. You move, you work, you maintain. Mouse controls everything. Navigation, tools, survival. The interface offers no complexity, no heroism, only labor. But the design is not interested in labor as spectacle. The design is interested in something far more specific. What does labor feel like when the penalty for stopping is death? There are no conventional instruments of fear here, no engineered moments of shock, no sudden intrusions designed to make you recoil. There is something more clinically interesting. There is a system, and the system is patient. Let me be precious about what is happening to the body in this scenario. Not the character's body. Yours. Because the nervous system does not distinguish between function and survival. If the threat feels real, and this is engineered specifically to feel real, the biological response is identical. The moment you receive that sentence, 7 days, 500 kilograms or detonation, your hypothalamus initiated a threat response. Your adrenal gland released epinephrine and cortisol. Heart rate elevated. Respiration increased. Peripheral blood flow redirected. This is the sympathetic nervous system activating. This is preparation for fight or flight. Here is the problem. Fight is not an option. The device is on your neck. Flight is not an option. You are in the middle of the Antarctic Ocean. So, the nervous system does something it was never designed to sustain. It stays activated. Not for minutes, for 7 days. Chronic sympathetic activation is not a state the human body tolerates. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, begins to accumulate. In the short term, cortisol is your ally. It sharpens focus, mobilizes energy, suppresses pain. But cortisol was designed for sprints, not marathons. After 24 to 48 hours of sustained elevation, it begins to do the opposite of everything it was designed to do. Motor precision degrades. To find motor control, you need to operate the winch, set the cage, repair the engine. This is governed by the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex. Both are suppressed under chronic cortisol load. Your hands begin to betray you. Not from fatigue, from neurochemistry. Notice what happens here. A precision instrument, a damaged system, a deadline. After hours of sustained threat, this is not a difficulty mechanic. This is forensic accuracy. Now add sleep, or the absence of it. The clock operates in real time. The Antarctic environment offers no natural light cues. Your circadian rhythm, governed by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, begins to desynchronize within the first 48 hours. Sleep deprivation at 72 hours produces miserable psychomotor impairment, equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.10%. You are legally impaired. You are operating machinery. You are responsible for your own survival. And you are doing it in water that is 2 degrees Celsius. Cold water immersion, even the ambient cold of Antarctic maritime exposure, activates a secondary physiological cascade. Core temperature regulation becomes metabolically expansive. Your body begins diverting caloric resources away from cognitive function and toward thermoregulation. You are getting slower, cognitively, not just physically. And then this happens. Something comes through the door, and suddenly everything the nervous system has been doing for days, the sustained vigilance, the background cortisol, the motor degradation, all of it becomes immediately, acutely relevant. Because the prefrontal cortex, already suppressed, now needs to make a decision, a threat assessment, weapon retrieval, response execution. With the neurological resources of a body that has been in crisis for days. If you were standing where that character stands, your body would be in full sympathetic overdrive. Cortisol spiking on top of already elevated baseline. Adrenaline creating tunnel vision. Fine motor control nearly absent. And a device on your neck, reminding you that failure has a specific consequence. This is not horror. This is a clinical description of physiological collapse. Now, I want to step back from the body and look at the system. Because what we are examining is not ultimately a person in danger. It is an institution that created the danger and designed it to look like justice. This system has a specific forensic profile. It is not chaos. It is not cruelty for its own sake. It is rational. The institution has calculated that a human body under sufficient threat will generate more economic output than a human body in a prison cell. This calculation has been made before, in history, multiple times. It does not end well for the bodies involved. What makes this system particularly precious is the isolation variable. There is no community, no solidarity, no shared witness. You cannot confirm that what is happening to you is happening to others. Isolation is not incidental to this system. It is load-bearing. But there are question marks, hidden locations, notes, objects, fragments of other people who were here before you. This is the most forensically honest detail in the entire design, because systems like this always leave evidence, not of their cruelty. They document that as a procedure. But of the people who moved through them, the ones who didn't make it, the ones who scratched their names into walls. Read those notes carefully. They are not background detail. They are testimony. There is a physiological mechanism called learned helplessness, identified by Martin Seligman in 1967. When a subject is exposed to repeated, inescapable, aversive stimuli, they stop attempting to escape, even when escape becomes possible. The nervous system learns that action produces no change, and it stops producing action. Watch what happens to you as you move through this. A task is given, you complete it. Another task arrives, you complete it. Hours pass, the routine becomes automatic. You stop questioning the system. You stop asking why you are here. You start asking, did I set enough cage? Did I repair the motor in time? The system has successfully redirected your cognition away from the extensional and toward the operational. This is not an accident. This is coercion by design. The device on your neck is almost irrelevant by this point. You don't need external enforcement. You have internalized the deadline. You have become your own guard. This is what the forensic literature calls institutional capture. The system no longer needs to threaten you. You are threatening yourself. I am not going to tell you how this ends, because the ending is not the point. The point is what happened to the body before you got there. What we have just examined contains a more forensically accurate portrait of coercive labor than most academic papers written on the subject. Not because accuracy was the intention, but because someone paid attention to what the body actually does when the state decided it owns it. Every mechanic is a symptom. The movement, slow, deliberate, constrained by a single input, is the movement of a body under cortisol load. The engine repair under pressure is the fine motor failure of the sleep-deprived. The creature that comes through the door is the acute crisis that a chronically compromised nervous system is least equipped to handle. None of this was labeled. None of this needed to be. The body already knows. The question being asked here is not, can you catch enough crap? The question is, at what point does a human being stop being a person and start being a unit of output? And the answer, delivered through every degraded motor action, every sleepless hour, every internalized deadline, is not a number, it is a process. Slow, methodical, institutional. That process has a name in the medical literature. It is called dehumanization. And it does not require a monster. It requires a system and a deadline. Four categories, 4 verdicts. Amygdala activation, 4.3 out of 5. The threat is real, but it is infrequent. The game does not bombard the amygdala. It starves it of safety instead. You are not constantly afraid. You are constantly waiting to be afraid. That anticipation is neurologically more expensive than the fear itself. Prefrontal suppression, 3.2 out of 5. The control system is the diagnosis. A single input device, no muscle memory, no automatic responses. Every action requires conscious deliberation. Under sustained cortisol load, the prefrontal cortex loses processing bandwidth. The game was designed for a brain under pressure, and then applies the pressure. Chronic stress load, 4.8 out of 5. There is no safe loop. There is no checkpoint that signals rest. The device on your neck does not pause. The clock does not pause. The sympathetic nervous system was not designed to operate at capacity for 7 consecutive days. Crabmeat does not simulate this. It recreates it. Recovery demand, 3.5 out of 5. The game ends. The nervous system does not. Elevated cortisol has a half-life of roughly 20 minutes. But the anticipatory state, the constant background monitoring for threat, that takes longer to resolve. Crabmeat follows you out of the room, not as a story, as a physiological state. Overall verdict. Crabmeat is not a horror game. It is a captivity simulation, and your nervous system cannot tell the difference. This has been The Last Helm. The autopsy is complete.